Cool. So
All
this is
right.
Grant for Brutally Delicious Podcast, and I am here with Tommy Concrete. Tommy, thank you very much for joining us. Tell us a little
All
bit
right.
about what you've got going on, mate.
Well, I've got a new album out, UnRelapsed. It's digital only. Came out in November. I was sort of expecting it to be the album that killed me. I wanted it to be the album that killed me because it's my 10th solo album. I'm getting a bit fed up of it. Want to do something new, so I did this quite complex and quite unlistenable album, and I thought, right, that's thank you, Night and Bully, fuck off. And it's been my most popular album I've ever done. My streaming stats went up by 843%.
Nice.
And I've done nothing. Like I did no PR, no interviews, no reviews particularly or anything. And it's just taken off. But it ties in with the mental health thing here because it's a story about recovery from addiction. And so each of the tracks are like really short, like 40-second odd things rather than my usual 10-minute odd stuff. And it's just a very uncompromising, very dark descent into horrible mental health, but written from a euphoric position of I'm in recovery and it's all great now. But that's what the horror's like, and I thought it would be like the full stop to Tommy Concrete the solo career before I move on to something different. And I'm like, fucking hell, people are into this. I might have to do another one now. So, so yeah, that's been good.
That sounds
And there's
awesome,
another
dude.
thing which I might have to. Another thing I'll have to. Is the video going to be on this? When we're doing it, I'll just check. So I've got something
Video
to
and audio.
show. Right. Okay. Cool. Right. I was in a band a long time ago called Man of the Hour, and we did lots of stuff. We played with Anthrax, Black Label Society, toured with Corporate Clanny, Firewind, Grand Magus, and all of that. And after fucking nearly 15 years, we've got one of our albums up on Spotify. So I'm as proud of that as I am my new album. So Destroy the Machines of Slaughter by Man of the Hour is now on Spotify, and you should fucking check it out. If it wasn't for that, no one would give a shit about anything I've ever done since. That's that's the thing that allowed me to do everything in the last 20 or so years.
Absolutely
Right,
awesome.
that's my
Anybody
plugs.
that's watching or listening, make sure we get that checked out. This is Heavy Hearts. It is a mental health podcast. So that's what
Yeah.
we're going to explore now. Tommy's the first episode here, so thank you for this as well, Tommy.
All right.
I'm going to let Tommy basically explain his own mental health issues from here and the conditions that he has and how he incorporates them into music. Because nobody's going to know about himself better than himself. So, Tommy,
Yeah.
take it away, mate. Tell us what you do. Tell us what you go through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's quite strange because at the moment I'm very stable on medication and I've been through a lot of therapy and I'm on a what for mental health? Why are you talking to me? Because I'm on the other side of it with a lot of hard work. But say for example that album Destroy the Machines of Slaughter by Man of the Hour, I was fucking mental. Like that's the medical term for the state of mind I was in, like absolute psychosis delusion. And most of the songs are about um, uh, slipping into like madness, and I was sort of aware it was happening, and I was starting to really feel like sliding down the hill with that, like fucking hell, and it was real fuel for what I was doing, um, sort of thing, uh, and an incredible fuel for artistic expression, but and so I suppose with my new album Unrelapsed being the other end of that, I think maybe Destroy the Machines of Slaughter is the beginning of the story, and Unrelapsed is the end of that story. Um, but I think you've got to be very careful about this sort of thing, using poor mental health and using anguish and stuff like that as fuel or like mental confusion, psychosis in my case, because it sticks you there. You write some of these lyrics and you get some of these fucking mad ideas and you put them down and you listen back to it and you're like, whoa, that's good. And then you have to do it every practice and you have to go to that headspace every gig, every practice. And every time you got an interview, you got to talk about it, and people come up to you and go, "Oh my God, the lyrics for that one or that," and you can't recover. You can't recover from it. So it's a real. I'd say this is a cautionary tale for anyone listening to this now who are artists that use their own pain as fuel. That you've got to put a way out in your art, because if you just let it slide down the hill, it'll take you with it. So you have to have you've got to do things like, I don't mean necessarily sound like my album Unrelapsed, but you've got to put some hope in there, even for yourself. You've got to have some document the way out as well. Because if everything you do artistically is just to slide down, your own art will take you to some terrible places, which is fantastic if you're earning millions of pounds and you're like fucking Metallica and you've got, group therapists can come in and help you. But people on the underground, we don't have that. So yeah,
It's an amazing statement, Tommy, and I want to thank you for your honesty and what you've told us, mate.
Cool.
If I just interject for a moment, because one of the questions that I had was about artistic
Yeah,
boundary.
yeah,
Obviously, when it comes to art, people vary in the amount of themselves that they're willing to throw at it. So, how much have you
yeah.
thrown of your mental health into it in the past, and what boundaries have you put in place now to protect your headspace moving forward as an artist?
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds funny 'cause it's a funny fucking title, but there's a song on Destroying Machines of Slaughter called Beware of the Gnomes, right? And it's about seeing things in the corner of your eye, and that's not a problem. But when they start coming right in front of you and having a conversation, that's when it's a problem. And I discussed this with a Spanish friend of mine, and they went, "Oh, yeah, you talk about the gnomes." And I thought, well, I think you mean goblins, but so we called the song "Beware the Gnomes" anyway, just because I thought that was funny. But it's, I was losing my fucking mind. Could see these black cobras of smoke in the air in front of me, and I was looking at them and I was thinking, you need to get rid of them. If you don't get rid of those, you're not coming back from wherever this is. You have to get rid of that psychologically. And I thought, well, I've developed this, talking about the boundaries, I've developed this persona that I can walk on stage and I can have people look at me like, oh, what are you fucking doing tonight? And all of that with no problem. So I need to scare them off with that. So it became a strange loop. And I tried to project my on stage personality at my hallucinations to scare them off. And I did. And I came away from it and I thought, fucking hell, that's a song. And then and you write it down, but it's like, where are you? Do you know what I mean? Where are you? And I think being autistic, I don't really like a lot of things unless I'm in control of it. But being the lead singer of a heavy metal band is great because I walk on stage. I'm separated from everybody else. I'm not really in the crowd. I'm on the stage, and you can tell them what to do. Fucking shout, fucking this, and they do it. You're scripted. You've got all your lyrics and exactly what you're going to say for the whole time you're interacting with people, scripted out. And you can create something that you can live in really well. The only problem is that becomes a much more successful way of interacting with the world than a normal going into a shop and trying to buy something, which doesn't really fucking work quite as successfully as getting an audience to scream. And so you can start preferring one to the other. And that was what happened with me. And then you start to lose yourself a little bit, and it can be quite difficult to claw yourself back. And what happened with me was I ended up after Man of the Hour, I was in a doom band called Jackal Headed Guard of the Dead, and I refused to go near a microphone. It was guitar only. I'm not fucking saying a word. So I've come back, so to speak. It's quite unusual. I did a couple of albums under my own name, which I talked about the autistic experience, Unrelaxed 1 and 2. And I got that was really nice. I've had quite a lot of messages from people about that. I've ended been put on a lot of mental health playlists, and that actual honesty was what made people start to listen to what I'm doing rather than being, oh, he's in that band and he does his stupid music. It was that honesty and talking about that experience that was the true voice. It wasn't like a legs apart, leather trousers, loads of studs pointing at people persona that was a great thing to occupy, but it was very difficult when you try to interact with people afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
That, yeah,
So let's dive into the autism a little bit more. Because
yeah,
obviously, you know, autistic spectrum disorder comes with its own set of challenges. The spectrum itself, you know, no two people
yeah.
are the same when it comes to autism. So tell us a bit about kind of what you need musically in order to create.
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Um, well, I mean, mentioning to the synesthesia earlier, it's a very physical and a very colourful experience for me. And if that isn't, suppose if that isn't right, then it isn't working. And so, a lot of the time, if I'm jamming with other people or writing stuff on my own, I'm playing, and other people might say think it sounds good or bad or what have you. But it's when I get start to get a visual flash or start to get like a sense of something, or because I get sensory overload when my sense of smell disappears, bang, so my brain has to shut something off because I'm getting overloaded so much by the music. But, oh, I'm onto something. Yeah, you know. So I've learned over the years to follow what my other senses are doing just as much as what my ears are doing. The problem is orange. You can see that guitar up on the wall that's orange. For me, orange is a very, very in tune color. So if I'm writing music on that, everything I write is fucking brilliant. You play it on the guitar and it's like, right. So I can actually get really distracted. Like sometimes I have to be careful on the background color of Cubase. If I have it like red or anything like that, everything sounds great. And if I have it, say green, everything sounds shit. So I've learned to become quite aware of what's going on with the other senses and um, how they relate to it as one.
Absolutely amazing, dude. Can I go into the synesthesia a little bit more? It's
Yeah,
something that I'm aware of. I think a lot of the time synesthesia gets quite a cutesy rep, so to speak. Everybody romanticizes it a little bit, and I'm not really sure whether that's justified. Do you ever, you mentioned about you know, getting the flashes as being a positive when you're writing. Have you ever found yourself in a
yeah,
situation where your synesthesia is fighting against what you technically know as a musician? It's like you're aware that what you're playing is awesome, but the synesthesia is trying to tell you that it's not, other than the colors thing.
yes. That it can be when we were. I'm ending up talking about Man of the Hour more than my own stuff here, but it doesn't matter.
Go, dude.
When we were recording Destroy the Machine to Slaughter, we were in the studio. It was um, like a pale blue room, and it was really doing my nutting. And I had to shut my eyes and like say to myself, right, trust the lyrics. You've spent ages getting these right. They fit to the right rhythm. Trust that. And trust the vocal melodies you've been practicing. They are right. Just do it. And it was a very painful emotional experience because it felt like I had like fucking hell, all of this is shit. It's awful, all of it. None of it's working because I was being very distracted by the sensory experience of the room that I was in. And I had to just be like, no, no, you've put the work into this. This is all right. This is right. And then get it down. Then once I've recorded stuff, I'll go into the control room and listen to it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's great. But it was, I didn't have that understanding of myself then. So it was, it was quite the difficult thing was now, you know, I don't know. It's easier to predict when something like that's happening.
Understanding of yourself, I think, is like a truly like great statement, especially to lead me into another question as well, because
Right.
you know, growth is is what we are as adults. It's what we are as musicians. It's what we should be as people. Where do you've already talked a little bit about your progression as a musician. Could you maybe go a little bit more into, where you've not so much where you've come from as a musician, but where you've come from in a mental health capacity throughout your career? Like we've flip-flopped in between Man of the Hour and the Doom Band, and how you were kind of processing what you've got going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't really matter when you were growing up because everyone's fucked up in the 20s, so it didn't really matter. It was only when it started to get into playing Man of the Hour and the Herculean level of drugs and drink that was going on that was a real, like, uh, going to press
Yeah,
the mental health off button now, crunch.
yeah,
And that would, and we all in the band, we all suffered from that. And then into Jackal-Headed Guard the Dead, the Doom Band. That was a bit better, but it was still an area of real psychosis. When things went it completely fucked up for me, I played guitar for the Exploited for about a year, and the big fucking huge festival shows that I was playing there, that was when the absolute demon of ego came in, and and the fact that I'd been like I mentioned about the persona that you have on stage that I was living inside to be able to cope with the situation, it got very difficult to come out of that persona when you know you get a buzz in front of 100, 1,000, 2,000 people, but some of those shows were 24,000, 37,000 people, and it was fucking impossible to come out of that era, and the drink and the drugs went fucking off the rails. So after I was thrown out of that band, that's when I really started to try and be walking along and thinking, right, this thing that's going on, you need to prioritize sorting that out above anything else, including, and nothing is safe from the shop. You know, you need to find out what the fuck it is, stop hiding from it, stop trying to turn it off with drink, with drugs and stuff like that. You need to prioritize figuring that shit out because this is not sustainable, you know. Uh, so that was then. That would have been about 2012, and so since then it's been a real journey getting a autism diagnosis, getting medication for psychosis, being diagnosed with CPTSD from just generally having a life being mental. You end up with a colossal collection of scenarios that you find yourself in by accident, and also that you've sort of engineered to be within, and the persona that you're occupying has decided to do. You're, uh, you know, and that takes its toll. Certainly when you come out of it at the other end and you have this fucking hell, that was a tricky 25 years, you know. So, but things are pretty steady now, because it's knowing yourself. You know.
I think I've got one last question, and I think we'll knock it on the head there, buddy.
Yep,
You've mentioned addiction and
yep,
self-destruction and substances is something that, I've battled with it myself in relation to my own
right.
mental health. It can be a cause and it can be a solution. Um, what do you think, looking back at the self-destruction, and what do you think life would be like if you hadn't self-destructed and come back from it?
Well, there's a lot of talk about you have to find yourself in life, but I actually came from quite a good beginning. So there's the question: what if you've never lost yourself? So maybe you've got to go lose yourself to find yourself. you know, so I don't know. I don't know what I'd be doing. Maybe I'd be back home in a shit town playing covers with a boring wife. I don't know. It sounds awful. It was a horrible journey, but that was how I got to this place, which is really good.
That's a beautifully philosophical way of looking at things, dude.
Thank you.
Um, we're both guys of a certain age to any of us vulnerable age group, shall we say, in relation to suicide and poor mental health.
Yeah.
What would you say to any? I mean, to everybody as well, but what would you say to anybody who's struggling with darkness at the minute?
Oh, fucking hell. I don't know. It's just it's not worth suffering alone. You know, reach out to somebody. Reach out to somebody. There's always going to be someone there. But you know, you're gonna be glad you did the next day. You know, even if somebody's not there, even if somebody doesn't give a shit, even if you don't get the answer you want, sometimes that anger that people aren't going to fucking help you, maybe that's what you're looking for. But if you're sitting there on your own in your own depression and your own darkness, that's going to win, and you're going to get fucked. You've got to go look for it, and if you know, if you end up with a lot of shut doors and people not giving a fuck, you know, I've been there, and it made me very, very fucking angry, and it was anger that carried me through. I don't know, maybe get angry at a politician. You know, feel it.
That is definitely a good way to end it. For anybody listening, anybody watching, there is going to be mental health support numbers, either in the description or on the video at the end of this on YouTube. This has been Grant from Brutally Delicious with Tommy Concrete. I suppose saying to all the metalheads out there, you're not alone. Night night.
Great.